the chickens that fought off a tiger. Sometimes Chinese do not call a person by his name, but by his number in the family. In Chuzhou, there was a minor official everyone called Fang 3 because he was his parents' third son. Fang 3 was a very nice man. Everyone liked him. One day, he went to the Ho farm to collect taxes. "Brother Ho, I have to ask you to pay this year's taxes. I know nobody likes to pay tax, but I have to report to my boss." Ho, too, very politely said, "Fang 3, you must know this year's harvest was terrible. We simply do not have anything to pay you with. Could you possibly give us 10 days or half a month? Maybe we can gather some firewood to sell and get the money to pay our taxes to the emperor." Fang 3 paused to consider. Ho, too, told his wife to prepare a dinner for their guest. Just as she walked out the door with a butcher knife, Fang caught a glimpse of a woman in brown. She was standing outside the door, begging him to be kind. Just then, he heard a hen clucking. He knew the hen was brown. He told Ho, "I've already eaten. You do not need to cook anything for me." So Mrs. Ho put down her knife, and the hen was spared. When Fang came back a few weeks later for the tax money, that brown hen was waiting respectfully outside the gate for him. She had her little chicks lined up. They all seemed happy to see him. Fang got the tax money and left. As he crossed the stream by the farm and climbed the hill on the far side, a tiger came rushing out of the forest and pounced at him. Fang 3 was petrified. He shut his eyes and prepared to be eaten. Then he heard a strange sound. He saw the hen and her chicks attacking the tiger. But how could chickens possibly fight off a tiger? They flew at its eyes and pecked and pecked. The tiger howled as he ran away. Fang 3 fainted like a dead man. When he came to, he went back to the farm. He bought the hen and her brood for a high price. He carried them home and took good care of them for the rest of their lives. The Soul Collector's Visit. Chao passed the imperial examinations and earned the rank of excellent talent. A kind, honest man, he was careful not to hurt any living creature. One day, he went to visit some relatives. When the ferry he was on reached the middle of the river they were crossing, he noticed somebody standing in the boat. Strange. It looked like a servant of his who had died 3 years before. "What are you doing?" Chow asked him. "I am working for the world of spirits. My job is to collect souls when their time has come," the dead servant replied. "Today, I have 3 souls to collect." Chow asked, "Whose?" The servant replied, "One of them lives over there on that bank. The second is one of the relatives you are visiting. And the third, Chow asked, "Who is the third soul?" But his dead servant would not answer. Chow knew that the third soul whose time had come was himself. His dead servant told him not to be afraid. "This evening I will not go to your house. Everything will be all right." "How so?" "On my way here, I was asked to let you go because you have been so kind and you have not killed anything." When Chow got to his relative's house, he heard the sounds of mourning and weeping. Somebody had died. He turned around and went home. That night, his servant did not come for him. Everything was all right. Chow lived a long, useful life. He was happy and prosperous because he never killed anything. If you cherish life, you can also cherish your own life. The power of mercy. Tashan Temple is one of the biggest temples in Zhejiang. Many people flock there to pay respects to the Buddhas. Also, there are many tourists and sightseers. One day, 2 scholars came to the temple, Tao and Chang. We told earlier how the wise master began the tradition of having free life ponds in temples. Of course, Tasha Temple had a big free life pond. When these 2 scholars saw the thousands of eels and fish happily swimming in the pond, they were very touched. They wanted to do something too. "I'd like to buy these eels, then take them to the big river where they have more space to swim around. That river flows into an even bigger river, so they'll have all the space they need. They'll be free for the rest of their lives. What do you think?" Tao asked. Chang said, "That's a great idea. Let me help." "I don't have much money. Let's see if we can get some people to pitch in. Then We can set more eels free." Chong answered, "Great, I'll do my best." Chong had 1 ounce of silver, so he donated that. And then he went to all the nice people he knew. He asked them to help. All together, they collected 8 ounces of silver. Tao and Chong were happy. They hired some workmen, then made arrangements with the monks in the temple. Then they took thousands of eels from the pond and released them in the river. Later, they forgot all about freeing those eels. But one night in the fall, Tao had an odd dream. He dreamed that a god strode up to him and announced very formally, "You 2 gentlemen may be scholars, but you were originally supposed to fail all of the imperial examinations. Let it be known that because you have released thousands of animals and returned them to their natural freedom, you have earned great merit. You have earned enough merit to pass the imperial examinations. I have come to congratulate you on your upcoming good fortune." When he woke up, Tao went to tell Chong about his dream. Chong said, "That's amazing. I had exactly the same dream last night." Sure enough, when they took the imperial examinations, both Tao and Chong passed. They became important government officials, and they always remembered that their good fortune came because they had been kind to dumb animals. "100 lives." Are you feeling any better today? Fawn knew that his wife had tuberculosis, which was not easy to cure, but he took care of her very tenderly. "Thank you for your concern," his wife gasped out painfully. Fawn asked the best doctor to treat his wife. The doctor examined her carefully and then took Fawn aside. "There is a way to cure her, even though she is very sick. Take the heads of 100 sparrows. Make them into medicine according to this prescription. Then, on the 3rd and 7th days, eat sparrow brains. That should do the trick. This is a secret passed down from my ancestors. It never fails. But remember, you have to have 100 sparrows. You cannot be even 1 short." Fawn was eager to help his wife. He rushed out and bought 100 sparrows. They were all crowded into one big cage. They chirped and hopped around mournfully. There wasn't enough space for them to enjoy themselves. Maybe they even knew they were going to be killed. Mrs. Fawn asked, "What are you doing with all those sparrows?" "This is the doctor's special prescription. We are going to make them into medicine. You'll be up and around in no time," her husband cheerfully responded. "No, you cannot do that." Mrs. Fawn managed to sit up in bed. "You cannot take 100 lives to save my one life. I would rather die than let you kill those sparrows." Fawn did not know what to do. "If you really love me, do as I say. Open the cage and let all the sparrows go. Then, even if I die, I will die at ease." What could he do? Fawn took the cage out to the woods. He let all 100 sparrows go free. They flew into the bushes and trees. They sang and cheeped happily. They looked and sounded so very happy to be free. In a few days, Mrs. Fawn got out of bed again, even though she had not had any medicine. Her friends and relatives came to congratulate her on her speedy recovery from a terrible disease. Everybody was very happy. The next year, the Fawns had a baby boy. He was very lively and very cute. But the funny thing was, on each arm he had a birthmark. And the birthmarks looked just like sparrows. The snake's pearls. "What is that?" asked one sentry. "It's just a snake. Let's kill it," said his buddy. They took up their spears to kill the colorful little snake. "Halt!" came the voice of command. Both men froze. They saw it was the Duke of Sway himself telling them to stop. "Can't you see it's already wounded?" Poor thing. Sure enough, they could see that the snake was already wounded in the head. The Duke gently picked up the snake with his staff. He took it to the riverbank. He told his soldiers to leave it alone. A while later, one sentry called the other. "Hey, look, that snake's come back again." "Yeah, and it's got something in its mouth." "Say, will you look at that? It's carrying a pearl." The other soldiers came running when they heard that. The little snake just kept going straight ahead. "See where it's going," someone called out. They all got out of the way, and the little snake went right to the Duke's tent. It dropped the pearl at his feet. "Well, that certainly is nice of you," said the Duke, "but I'm an imperial officer. I'm not supposed to accept gifts, you know." The snake would not budge an inch until the Duke picked up the pearl and put it in his pocket. That night, the Duke dreamed that he stepped on a snake by accident. He was so startled that he woke up. He looked at his feet to see if he had been bitten. It was just a dream. But wait a minute. What's that? He found another pearl right next to his feet. And that was no dream. 2 beautiful pearls. The Duke was a kind man. He really did not want any reward for saving the snake. But he had 2 priceless pearls and nobody to return them to. So he put them away as a reminder to be kind to all living things. This story spread far and wide. Many people realized that even an animal that crawls on the ground values its life. This story got even some nasty people to think, and they changed their ways. Gradually, more and more people learned to love life and to stop killing things and tormenting animals. For the Duke of Sway, this was a much better reward than the pearls. "11 Lives as a Cow." In about 1815, a man named Lynn died. His family and friends were sad because he had been such a nice person. Lynn found himself in hell. There is a court there presided over by the king of hell. The bailiffs are demons with bulls' heads and horses' faces. Other demons are waiting eagerly to go get the next to die. The walls are hung with terrifying instruments of torture. All of these are created by our own wicked thoughts and bad acts, not by any gods or devils. A doctor, Dr. Yin, was dragged into the court. "Oh no, I've just died. Then this must be the court where I'll be judged." Just thinking about it horrified him. "On your knees, scum!" roared the bailiffs. Yin knelt. Then he noticed someone else kneeling beside him. Then he realized he knew the other prisoner. It was his friendly local butcher, Lee. Lee was in no friendly mood now. When he saw Dr. Yin, he struck his finger in his face and told the king, "It's all his fault. He's the one. If he didn't eat beef, I wouldn't kill any cattle. Take him. Let me go." Yin would not have any of that. He said, "Your Honor, if he didn't kill cattle, I wouldn't eat beef." Li was furious when he heard that. The bailiffs had to drag them apart. The king slammed his fist on the desk. "Silence! One killed, the other ate. You're both guilty. Don't you have a conscience? Cows and bulls plow fields to grow grain to feed you. You have no gratitude. You eat these innocent animals. If people eat a lot of beef, a lot of cows die. If people eat a little beef, fewer cows die. If people eat no beef, no cows die. Do you two understand that?" They nodded submissively. "Li, for your crimes against living creatures and against your conscience, I sentence you to hell, where you will suffer until you have learned your lesson. Take him away." The demons gleefully dragged the howling butcher away, kicking him as they went. "Dr. Yin, you have eaten too much beef. Every time a patient invited you to dinner, you insisted on eating beef. Do you have any idea of how many cows you have eaten? Do you admit your guilt?" Dr. Yin hung his head and nodded. "Not only that, 11 of your patients died due to your stupidity and carelessness. For your crimes, I sentence you to 11 lives as a cow, wherein you will pay back your debts to those victims of your malpractice. You will end each life suffering under the butcher's knife as just compensation for the torments you caused innocent living creatures. Take him away." Dr. Yin screamed as the demons dragged him out of the court. "As for you," the king turned to Lin, but he was speaking in a different tone. "You have been good to your parents and loyal to your country. It's not your time yet, so you can go back. But be sure to tell everyone what you saw here, so they do not end up in this predicament." And with that, Lin came back to life. A typical hunting accident. The mountains were splendid, but U Tong didn't care a whit for scenery. He and his son spent a lot of time hunting in these mountains. U Tong was a dead shot with his bow and arrow. He never missed. He was such a good shot that he barely had to aim. He just picked a target, pulled his bow, shot it down. No animal was quick enough or agile enough to escape his arrows. Look over there, a little fawn. A little fawn must be one of the most adorable animals in nature. But U Tong was not in the mountains to admire nature. As soon as he spotted it, he whipped an arrow out of his quiver, and zoom, the fawn fell over, dead. Then U noticed its mother a few feet away in the grass. He couldn't get a good shot at her from his angle, so he waited. She was so terribly sad about her little baby. She let out a cry as she started licking her baby's wounds. Just as she was concentrating on that, U pulled off a quick shot, and the mother deer died on the spot. But even that was not enough for him. He thought there might be more deer in the area because he had heard something rustling around in the grass. There was at least one more in there, maybe two. 3 deer is better than 2, he thought. He prepared to shoot. Then he located the source of the sound and shot at a shadow in the grass. He was proud to hear the sound of another dead body falling to the ground. But his pride turned to anguish when he heard a groan. Deer don't groan like that. That was a human voice. He rushed over. He saw that his 3rd shot had not killed a deer, but his own son, who had come out hunting with him. He was stupefied. He seemed to hear a voice telling him, "U Tong, do you now know what it is like to see your baby shot to death with an arrow? Animals love their young as much as you do. How much anguish have you caused animal parents?" He stood there, numb, too heartbroken to pay attention to a sound that came from the side. Then in a flash, he realized that the other animal he had heard in the grass was not a deer, but a tiger. But he was too late. Before he could move, his shooting arm was in the tiger's mouth, and in a moment, he was dead. The 3rd fox. Wang was a very rich man. His family made their fortune running a pawn shop. Business was great. They needed more warehouse space. So they bought up some of the empty houses around their pawn shop. They used these as warehouses. In one of the empty houses, they surprised a litter of 3 little foxes. The workmen chased them away, but that wouldn't do for Wang. There'll be no end of trouble if we let them get away. Kill them all. They killed 2 of the little foxes, but one of them escaped. From then on, the Wangs never had a day's peace. Things disappeared. Other things broke mysteriously. Nothing could be found where it belonged. Everybody said the 3rd fox was behind all of this. In the winter of 1815, a fire broke out in their warehouses for no apparent reason. Fortunately, it was discovered in time, so the damage was not too serious. Wang called in a sorcerer to exorcise the property, but a few months later, there was another fire. Everybody knows how tricky foxes are. If one sets its mind to mischief, there will be no end to trouble. Finally, some years and endless trouble later, Wang decided to sell the warehouses and be done with it. Chun, a local rich man who also needed warehouses, inspected the property. They agreed on a fair price, 40,000 pieces of gold, and on a date to sign the contract and close the deal. The day before they were to sign the contract, the Chuns heard a voice telling them, "This is a feud between Wang and me. It doesn't have anything to do with you, so you had better keep out of it." They could not tell where the voice was coming from, but Mr. Chun was convinced that he ought to look elsewhere for a warehouse. "All my wealth is going up in flames." This is the cry that woke up the rest of the Wangs one night during March 1841. He rushed out of his bedroom without even putting on his pants or shoes. Somehow, a fire had started in the kitchen. It spread to the warehouses. By the time the family was awake, all of the warehouses were on fire, and by morning, every one of them had burned to the ground. The 3rd fox had finally taken its revenge. Animals may not have the intelligence of human beings, but they remember who has been nice to them. And they remember who has hurt them. Clever animals like foxes may even plot revenge with single-minded determination. They cannot be persuaded by reason. Even a skilled sorcerer may not be able to quell them. The only way to reach such a soul is through feeling remorse for all the wrong that has been done, and through compassion. Wang should have regretted and felt remorse for killing those foxes. He then should have proved his sincerity by doing good deeds and killing nothing else. Then, if he had been able to tell the fox all about Buddhism and explain the balance and nature of the universe, they might have patched up their quarrel. They might have become friends and avoided this disaster. In the end, revenge does not do anyone any good. The murdered chicken. He was truly a fine man. He was a sincere Buddhist who lived by the precepts and a pure vegetarian, said Li as he wiped away a tear. Yes, a model for all Buddhists, said his friend Luo. They were talking about their old friend Chin, who really had been every bit as good as they said. For miles around, people knew that Chin was a true Buddhist. They were all shocked and saddened when he died in his 40s. Chin came to one of his servants in a dream. "Hi, it's good to see you again. Too bad I died so young. I really wanted to go to the Pure Land, but I didn't make it. I'm doing okay now. I can come and go as I please. Right now, I'm kind of like on probation with Buddha Amitabha. I'm busy working up enough merit so I can go to the Pure Land. Tell my family not to worry about me. Okay? It was great talking to you." They were all happy to hear about that. But sometime later, Chin appeared in his widow's dream, and he was furious. "You dummy! Didn't I teach you anything? Now look what you've done. Are you trying to ruin me? How could you be so stupid?" Mrs. Chin did not know what was wrong. She had never seen her husband so angry before. What did I do wrong? She thought maybe he was mad because she had remarried. "You slaughtered a chicken at my tomb when you got remarried. I think it's great you got remarried. I mean, I don't want you to go lonely, but why on earth did you do in that chicken? Don't you realize how serious that is?" His wife was sorry, but honest. "No, really, I don't know how serious it is." "Well, let me tell you now. I've got this probation officer who follows me everywhere to make sure I don't kill anything. It's like they think it was me who murdered that poor chicken. Now, he's always sticking his nose in my business and telling me what I can do and what I can't do. You and your chicken." "I'm really sorry. You know I got remarried. I'm glad you don't mind. You know I'm going to have a baby, too." "Yeah, I know, and it's a boy." "A boy? Oh, how nice. This one will be fine. But the next time..." "The next time what?" "The next time won't be so fine. For you or the kid. Look, My probation officer's coming back. I gotta run now, but listen, I expect you to stay a vegetarian. No more of those dead animals at my tomb. Do you understand? Everything turned out exactly as Chin had said in the dream. Look what even one dead chicken can do to a soul after death. Then, think what happens to the souls of people who eat chicken and pork and beef day after day. Spare an old hen. It was a happy gathering. The host told Lien, "I'm overjoyed you could come, and from such a distance. I will spread out an extra special feast for this occasion." Lien said, "Oh, you don't have to go to so much trouble for a relative. It's not like I was an imperial official or something." Another relative said, "We have a nice fat hen ready for the knife. We'll butcher her tomorrow morning and eat her for lunch tomorrow." Lien did not like fancy meals in the first place. In the second place, he felt sorry for the hen. So he thought up an excuse. I only eat vegetarian food on certain days, and tomorrow is my vegetarian day. So I have to ask you to please not kill that hen for me. Your sincerity fills my heart better than a hen could fill my stomach." "Well, if you insist, then we'll eat vegetarian food tomorrow," his relative said. Then, all too early, it was time for Lien to end his visit and go home. On his way back, he got to a wide river and waited for the ferry. Little did he imagine that as soon as he got on the ferry, an old man with a white beard on the shore pointed at him and shouted, "There's a liar on board. Somebody said he's a vegetarian, but he's no such thing. Don't take him across the river on your ferry." With that, the people on the boat started asking who the culprit was. Finally, Lien confessed, "I told a white lie, but I didn't do it to hurt anybody." The other people didn't care what reason he gave. They did not want him on board anymore. So, pushing and pulling, they got him off the ferry and threw his luggage on the shore after him. Then they cast off. Lien was pretty mad. He decided to find that old guy and ask him who told him to butt into Lien's business. But the funny thing was, he couldn't find the old guy. So he just sat on the shore with his luggage. He watched the ferry get smaller and smaller as it crossed the river. Suddenly, a terrible storm came up. The wind blew so fiercely that before they could cross to the other shore, the ferry went down with all hands. Not a single person on the ferry survived. Lien never knew that when he spared that old hen, he was saving his own life. A picnic or a life. Once there was a very unhappy group. Some of them had passed the imperial examinations and become officials, but for some reason or other had been demoted. Others had never managed to pass the exams in the first place. They were all so depressed, they decided to go for a little excursion to a famous temple to cheer themselves up. When they were there, one of them happened to go out for a breath of fresh air. He saw a farmer beating a water buffalo, but no matter how much he beat it, the buffalo would not move. When it saw the scholar, it began to cry. He realized that it was crying because it was being driven to slaughter, and naturally, no animal wants to die. The scholar, who was named Chen, forgot his own sorrows in sympathy for the water buffalo. He asked the farmer, "How much do you want for your water buffalo?" "The price of 15 bolts of silk." Chen went back inside. "We've got money in the kitty for our next excursion, but why don't we put that money to a much better use?" "What have you got in mind?" "Let's buy a doomed water buffalo and let it live out its life in peace." "But we were going to use that money for a big picnic during the flower season. Don't you remember?" "Yes, but a party only lasts for a few hours, then it's over. We could use the same money to save a life. Think about it. Which do you think is a better way to spend the money?" His friends thought about it. Chen prodded them a little bit. "Come on, cough up. Tell you what, you guys chip in for this water buffalo, and when the flowers are blooming, I will foot the entire bill for the picnic. How does that sound?" "For sure?" "You have my word for it." His friends saw that his mind was made up, so they got the money together and gave it to the farmer for his water buffalo. Then they gave the water buffalo to the temple and asked them to let it live out its natural lifespan there. When the flowers started to bloom, Chen was still just a poor student. But a promise is a promise. So he pawned his best clothes and hosted the picnic just as he had promised he would do. But he wasn't a poor student much longer. The next year, he placed very high on the imperial examinations and became an official. Before long, he had won a very high place in the government. He enjoyed the honor, power, and good fortune that go with the post. He was sure that he enjoyed such good luck because he had saved that poor, water buffalo.